Welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I am Ron Corbin, Cottonwood City Manager. Today we have two wonderful guests to talk about the city's budget and process. We have our Finance Director, Kirsten, Lennon.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for joining us.
It's nice to be here.
I learned it was your first time on the show.
It's my first time on the show.
And my second time, so...
We're doing good.
We are. So we'll have to lean on Rudy Rodriguez, the Deputy City Manager.
Good morning.
Who's been doing finance for a long time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you were here. So we are here to talk about the budget. Very important. I believe it's the document that City Council will adopt that really sets our priorities and our work plan for the next 12 months. So if you can, Kirsten, can you tell us about the process? I mean, how does this work? Because we spend a lot of time working on it. So can you tell the folks listening at home what's involved in the process?
It's a very long process and it never ends, basically. We usually start in October timeframe, getting documents ready for that next year's budget. And we put them together and send them out to the department heads and start working on goals and objectives for the next year and our performance indicators. And then we send out information requests for any new personnel or capital that the department might think they want to have and add to the budget. And then we start having meetings in January with the council on those performance measures and on those goals and accomplishments. And then we move into doing more numbers and getting our projections of our revenues and our expenses and start planning our base budget about March timeframe. Then we take all those numbers and put them all together and figure out where we are and take that to council in April.
Okay.
And that's our initial here's what we're thinking for the year, where we think we're going to be. And then in May, we take it to them again with, is there anything you want to add to the budget? Is there something in your strategic plan or something on your agenda that needs to be added to the budget? We then come up with our tentative budget that we adopt in June. And that tentative budget sets our expenditure limitation, which says we cannot expend more than that dollar value for our whole budget. And then our final budget's usually adopted in July.
Okay. So you talked about strategic plan. Now our council approved it here not too long ago.
Yes.
So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball. We're kind of waiting for that strategic plan to really start talking about numbers and where to put those dollars. So we've got that done. I think we go April 23rd to council with that preliminary budget, right?
Yes, we're going to council.
If we run out of time, we'll come back the 24th, but I have a goal of
getting it done in one day.
Get it done in one night, hopefully.
Me too.
Because they can, council then has plenty of time to have input and give us direction before we come back in May for another review and to follow the process. And so we'll get back to talking about citizen input in a minute, but it sounds like there's going to be plenty of opportunity yet for citizens, for the community to give city staff and city council input on what they want to see or changed.
Yes, they can always come to any of the council meetings on the budget. And like I said, we've been having department heads present goals and accomplishments since January, and those are open meetings, and citizens can come and ask questions about budget at that time. And we're also going to have that meeting on the 23rd where we present just the tentative, the proposed kind of budget this is where we are right now. And we're having a open house. On our town hall meeting, on April 30th at 5:30 at the council chambers, where citizens can come hear a presentation on the budget, and they can ask questions and find out any information they'd like to find out.
Awesome. Well, let me give a shout out to Mary Ann, just in case she's listening, our city clerk. She came up with the date and time and everything and the idea for the town hall, and so we'll be there to present, so we'll have more details by then, and then the community can give us feedback directly to city staff. So thank you, Mary Ann. So Mr. Rodriguez, Rudy there, why is all this important? Why is the process so long, and why is the comment period for citizens? Why businesses don't go through this long of a process? Why do we as a government spend so much time on the budget?
Well, the reason being is because it's their money. That's the key to the budget process. It is their money. They contribute to all the services. We understand it's not free, and the government has to function, and the only way we get money is through citizens' contributions to the effort. The process basically is because we have to count, we have to be accountable, we have to go ahead and make sure it takes so long because we have to go out, it's a big process. We have to accumulate information. Unfortunately, we have to deal with a lot of other agencies, especially our state agencies, and we have to depend on them to provide us information. We're in a position where we live and die by our sales tax. We don't have a property tax in Cottonwood, but we have to go ahead and make sure that we spend those dollars wisely. And the only way we're going to do that is if we actually put together a budget, a plan, a direction. Our council collects information all the time. They're always talking to citizens. They provide us with a strategic plan that basically gives us our guidance on what they would like to see for the next 12 to 18 months. We then take that information, give it to our department heads, and then they provide all the information to Kirsten as to the things they'd like to see and how it ties into our strategic plan. And it's important that our public participate. We over the years, we've tried different ideas on trying to encourage the public to join us, and we have not had very much success. We'll continue. The town hall is a way to have some outreach. We're looking to go to some of our community agencies. I think we're meeting with the Rotary Club to present our counsel to them. If there's any club or agency organization that would like to hear us, we'd be happy to try to accommodate some time so we can get out there. Our goal is to try to get information out to the public as much as we can, and we encourage public input. The whole idea behind the budget is we've got to make a plan, spend our citizens' money wisely, and the only way we're going to do it, and the only way that they're going to realize that we're doing it, is by actually participating, watching us put the budget together, give us some input, maybe not for that year, but it'll give us a good guide for the following years.
Very good. Well, I appreciate that. And so you mentioned a couple opportunities. We have the town hall coming up, right, and then we're going to reach out to some community organizations. Right. And if there's a organization out there that would like us to come present and answer questions or receive feedback, reach out to City Hall, give City Hall a call, and we'll make that arrangement happen for you. We also have, I left out earlier, we've had some staff meetings. Mm-hmm. So, who knows better where to save money or where to spend the money wisely than our frontline employees who are out there working hard day in and day out. So we've had a couple of those meetings, and then of course we've had several council meetings to find out where we're going. So one of the other things I want to talk very briefly about on the budget is it's a complicated document, mm-hmm, lots of pages. But one of the things that I've always found curious about government budget, we're going to talk about revenue when we come back from the break, but we get pockets of money. And so we get money, mm-hmm, for wastewater or water or our road HERF tax, and we'll explain that in a little bit. Now, the budget kind of tells us we can only spend this amount of money on these kinds of projects. Mm-hmm. So we can't take sales tax, I guess sales tax is the only thing that we can really use anywhere, but we can't take money from the water fund or the wastewater fund or HERF and just spend it anywhere. I mean, this budget document is a guide and limits our ability as a staff to where we can really spend that money. And then the rules behind that money limits council on where they can allocate the money for us to spend. Rudy, is that, am I getting that right?
You're absolutely correct. In the city of Cottonwood, we've always committed to keeping our enterprise funds separate. And what we mean by enterprise funds is those are operated such as a business. Unfortunately, our wastewater fund has struggled. We've got a lot of work that needs to get done. We've had an old system that's been running 24/7, 30 years straight. This last year, we had to contribute some general fund money to it, and we're working towards fixing that particular issue. But the council and administration has always made it a point to keep those monies in their pocket. We don't put that money into any other. We don't put it into streets. We might put it into a water line or a sewer line that's underground because that's their responsibility. But we don't do street projects with any of their funds. The same way with our HERF funds, our highway user revenue funds.
It's mandated.
By state statute, that money that comes in from state shared revenues for HERF has to stay in HERF. Again, unfortunately, HERF is not sufficient to cover our costs for our maintenance operations and our streets. So general fund contributes about $700,000, nearly $800,000 a year to that program, so we can do street maintenance, minor projects, and sidewalks. But we don't commingle those, and any money that the water and wastewater has, that stays in their respective funds. We do not transfer funds back to the general fund.
Okay, well, thank you. Boy, this is complicated. And right before we go to break, as complicated as this is, you inherited a pretty good system, because I think before the show, you guys were talking about some award that we've won for a couple of years.
It's the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. We've won that award for at least 20 years or more.
Wow.
I'm not sure of the exact number,
but we've done a pretty good job.
We've done a good job at presenting our budget for many years. That comes from the Government Finance Officers Association, which is a U.S.-wide organization.
Well, that's exciting. And Rudy, you were responsible for many of those years, and now you're responsible for the last few years and going forward. So we're getting ready to go to break, and when we come back, let's talk about revenues and see where we're at for this year and what our projections are for next year.
Good.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness. When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm Ron Corbin, your city manager for the city of Cottonwood, and I have two wonderful guests today. I have our finance director, Kirsten. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, Rudy, our deputy city manager. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So when we left, we kind of said, let's talk about revenues. So a little bit into the details, a little bit of numbers, but can you give us an overview of how the city is doing financially with revenues?
Well, for this coming year, fiscal year 2020, we have estimated that we're going to have about a 2% increase in sales tax. Last year we had budgeted for fiscal year 2019 to have a 3% increase, and we're not seeing that currently. Currently, we're only seeing about a 2% increase for this fiscal year, and then so we're projecting, again, a 2% increase for next year. We have also contacted some of our neighboring communities, and they are seeing the same information. They're seeing that the trend is that sales tax is kind of flattening, and that there isn't a large increase in sales at the current time. So that our neighboring communities are thinking a 2% or maybe even budgeting their sales tax at a flat rate, the same as the current year. So we just are trying to be responsible and make sure that we are not over budgeting our revenues and overestimating. So we're keeping it at a 2% for next year. Okay. And I think that our overall revenues are projecting to be about that level as well. The state shared revenues are projected a little higher than the 2%, but they also have a larger population to draw those numbers from. Right. And I know that the urban revenue share also, which is one of the funds that the state gives us and gives us the projection, that's money from 2 years ago. So it may be up and I think it's up around 8 or 9% this year, but that's from 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, the money was up 8 or 9%. So in 2 years, they may only show a 2% or less increase for this current period.
Boy, this is complicated.
It is very complicated.
I'm glad I have some smart people in the room to help explain this. So Rudy, 2%. What are your thoughts on that? And is that across the board for the city? How's bed tax doing in our hotels? I mean, how do you think that's reflecting on our local economy?
Well, our bed tax is doing quite well. We're filling those rooms, so we probably everyone. If you go into Old Town at any point in time, especially on weekends and evenings, there's a flurry of activity, which is awesome. Which is awesome for this community. But our bed tax is up, but that's actually a very small portion of our tax, and currently a major portion of it goes to our chamber for marketing.
Okay.
So that doesn't, even though it's up, it's not reflective of the rest of the trend. We are basically retail based. The city of Cottonwood has been the commercial hub for the Verde Valley for many, many years, and we continue to be so. And unfortunately, we retail based. So even though our bed tax is up, doing really well, it's not reflective in a lot of our other areas because people are coming in. We suspect that a lot of people are resting here and then going to other areas. You know, we have state parks, national parks close by, and I think that's probably what's happening. And they're not spending all that money in our city, but nonetheless, we will take it, and it's a good indicator that we've got people coming into the area. I would figure that if we weren't up that high, we would probably be doing a lot worse. 2% is what's going on in the area, and it's not uncommon for us to go ahead and poll our neighbors because whatever happens in one area is probably happening throughout the entire Verde Valley. So it's not uncommon that we poll them too.
Well, the revenue, 2%. It's been worse before.
Yes.
So this is good. This is progress, moving in the right direction. But one of the priorities in our strategic plan that they gave was a savings. So I've only been with the organization a few months, but I clearly, the direction is we need to add to our reserves and save some money. So with the 2% growth, were we able to save anything? Is there any extra money stashed away in this year's budget?
We were directed from council to put away a large portion of the 1/2-cent sales tax increase that we enacted in November.
Okay.
So we are putting away about 80% of that increase into reserves or funding projects instead of having it go directly into the general fund.
Okay.
So we are able to save a bit more money next year in our budget as part of that 1/2-cent sales tax increase. It's being set aside for reserves for different projects, for just a general fund reserve to have more cash in the bank on hand, so if something happens we have it available, and then also to put money towards our unfunded pension liability.
Okay, so the retirement systems for both the state, the ASRS, which is Arizona State Retirement System, or the Public Safety Retirement System.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to. We could spend hours talking about the retirement systems. How much control do we have on those rates? Rudy, do you want to take that one? Or it's pretty simple, I think, but let me just double check.
It's actually, unfortunately, we have no control.
Oh.
There's two different systems. The public safety is a lot more complicated, kind of fractured because every city has is responsible for their own liability. Some are fully funded. Usually, it's the smaller cities that have either don't have don't have a fire department or have a district. The bigger cities, like ours, we've got others in the community that are in very, very bad shape financially on the pension side. Those liabilities are now in our books. On the ASRS side, it's a little bit less complicated because you have just one agency and we're all under the same umbrella. And so what ends up happening is that you've got agencies that are doing better than others, but it's one big pool, so it kind of balances out.
You bring up a real good point that before we go on to our next break, and you talked about adding it to our books, the liability. So for those residents who have been following you for 20 years, I think, or 19 years, however long you've been here, they at some point in the near past, they saw a jump in our debt for the city because of that, if I'm not mistaken. So have we always carried, I'm going to call the state's debt in our books, or is that something that was added recently to make things look different?
No, we have a GASB standard, Government Accounting Standard Board standard, 68, I believe.
Yes, it is.
That came on board about 5 years ago. Prior to that, it was all the state's responsibility. It was on their books. GASB 68 actually became a statute that's not just Arizona or Cottonwood issue. This is a global issue.
Okay.
Those liabilities that were on someone else's book, a pension fund, now have to be reflected on our books because in reality it is our liability.
We have to pay it. Okay.
The issue here is that we have always paid what our actuarials have told us to. This is your rate, and we've always collected it. So it's never been that we haven't wanted to pay or have not funded it. We've always paid what they've asked us to. Come to find out years later that the pension has lost a lot of money, and unfortunately, it's about the time that those liabilities came onto our books.
Right.
So now, on top of what they ask us to pay, we're actually funding even more to try to get our portion, not the rest of the other communities, but our portion funded. And
if I remember correctly, you guys actually pay early in the beginning of the fiscal year so that it helps offset long-term, kind of like paying early on a mortgage.
Right.
Correct.
And then it earns interest all year long, too, having that money sit out there.
Okay. So when we come back, I can't believe we're almost running out of time. I want to talk about infrastructure and Parks and Rec real quick, and then we'll wrap up inside Cottonwood. So come back and we'll find out what we're doing with our roads and Parks and Recreation.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness. When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. Well, we've got just a few minutes left, so I'm going to jump into it. We've been talking about the budget. So again, we have our Finance Director, Kirsten, and our Deputy City Manager, Rudy, here to talk with us. So the council directed us to save some money, and you said we've saved some money. In the budget we're presenting to council, there's some savings. But they also want us to invest in our community. And two things that keep coming up over and over again is our infrastructure, roads and sidewalks, and then Parks and Rec as far as a community. What can we do to move our community forward, partnering and doing things? So we'll start with Kirsten. What have we done in the budget to help with infrastructure and Parks and Rec?
Well, we are funding a couple road projects, mainly finishing Mingus Avenue.
Yes.
Yes, which everyone will be thrilled to know that we're going to finish Mingus Avenue.
Yay.
And also doing some pavement preservations around town where updating the pavement so that it's a better roadway. We also budgeted money in for some additional sidewalks.
Okay.
So that's a good step in that direction.
Right.
We are also looking to start a Old Town floodplain project that's going to help get Old Town out of the floodplain.
Okay.
And that's a really large project that should take about 2 years to finish.
Okay.
And so that's about $2 million.
I was going to say, that sounds expensive.
It's very expensive, but we did receive a grant, or we're hoping to receive a grant. It looks good at the moment.
Yes.
From FEMA, and that will cover 75% of the cost of that project.
Awesome. Rudy, anything you want to add on Parks and Rec?
On the Parks and Rec side, one of the things we're trying to do is partner, especially with our Old Town Association. We're looking at projects that we can maybe add an additional, more of local type projects. One of the suggestions from our council over the years has been that we have more local activities for our youth, our kids, our youth, and then some adults. So we're looking at partnering even further with the Old Town Association. We already currently partner with them on a lot of things, but we're going to try to put it together some more programs, build on some of the programs we have, so we can have more activity for not just our youth, but also some of our adult type programs.
Right. As a matter of fact, the Old Town Association is hosting a hot rod event the last Saturday of April, if I'm not mistaken, in the afternoon, like 1 o'clock or something like that. So downtown will have a bunch of old vehicles down there.
Rat rods.
Rat rods, thank you.
Exactly.
I'm very excited about that, to see them down there. So as we wrap up, we have just a few minutes left. I did want to ask about the strategic plan. And the strategic plan really focuses on brand, and our brand is the heart of Arizona wine country. But then we have a tagline at the bottom of our motto, bottom of our symbols there, that says inspiring a vibrant community. So as our finance director and then as our deputy city manager, what does that mean to you, and how do you contribute to this wonderful community that we have?
I think the best way to do it is for too many years the city of Cottonwood has kind of done a lot of things, and we traditionally don't pat ourselves on the back. We just take business and we do our business. And I think one of the things that the city of Cottonwood needs to do is actually be more public, more vocal about the great things that we do, because we have a great community. But unfortunately, many things that we do, we don't pat ourselves on the back. And it's not to be, not that we need it, not that we don't want, but I think it's important that the community understand that there's a lot of things that happen. It's not just day in, day out, and you turn on the water and things, and it comes out, you flush your toilet, and it goes somewhere.
Which we're glad that does work.
We're glad, we're definitely glad that worked. But in reality, there are so many things that they're doing. We're working with water conservation. We're working with new parks programs. Our library has always got visitors. We've got so many artists and authors in the area. We're looking to expand hours over at the recreation center. New programming. We've got so many things going on, but unfortunately we don't seem to do a good job of getting it out. And that's what we're working on, trying to get that information out, trying to remind people what a great community they live in. And we're doing it on 3.5 cents of sales tax, because we don't have a property tax. No other community in the Verde Valley can go out and say that they can do as many things as we do with so little. And I think we just need to go out there and show people, showcase what Cottonwood really has to offer.
Kirsten, you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think that, my part in the strategic plan and inspiring the vibrant community is making sure that people understand our budget and how we spend our money, and being completely transparent on what is happening with our city. I think that helps them feel, at ease with what the city is doing, so that when we do these programs and we have all these events, that they see that we are being responsible. I think that helps them. And it also helps all of our departments just be more fiscally responsible and do what they need to do to help the citizens.
One other thing I think we need to stress also is we, especially us three, because we have to deal with so many things, is that we have an open door policy. Nothing keeps anyone from giving you, Kirsten, myself, or any staff member a call and give us ideas. We're always open for ideas and suggestions. I
was afraid you were going to go there, because just so that nobody has a leg up, that people do come in. I hear from people about Parks and Rec is often a big one, and of course transportation is another big one. They're always in there asking about it. And our city council, I believe, is committed in spending our money, their money, wisely
Yes.
and getting the most bang for the buck. Of course, they have savings is a very important concept for them right now, but also sidewalks and roads and community events are a big deal. So, as we wrap up, I just take a minute to thank both of you for the hard work in the budget and helping manage the city's finances and the city in general. And next steps, April 30th.
April 30th, 5:30.
5:30.
At City Council.
City Council building over there. You can come in, Town Hall. We'll have more details by then. If you have a community group that would like for us to come talk to and answer questions, we would be happy to. And again, Rudy, you're right. We have an open door policy. So call City Hall, make an appointment to see myself or Rudy or Kirsten, and we'll be happy to sit down and talk with you. And of course, our council members are always available. So thank you for joining me in today's edition of Inside Cottonwood.
Thank
Our
you.
pleasure.